Thanks for watching this portion of Garage Logic today on our YouTube channel, and hit the subscribe button if you wouldn't mind. And also thanks to our friends at Everest Men's Health for sponsoring this. Go to everestmenshealth.com today to see if they can help you with better energy and better health. And catch the Garage Logic podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
GL pilots would help us.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday we got news of the FAA apparently arranging now for commercial airliners to land in a gradual descent instead of a step process where they'd go a little ways lower, go a little ways lower. And
If plane pause.
yeah, and I was wondering if that's so great, why have they only been doing, why are they starting it now? And Carl down in Northfield's a long-time experienced pilot, both military and commercial. On the January 17th podcast, you were wondering why, if steady descent rate approaches are so great, why haven't the airlines been doing them for years? Short answer, the autopilot technology in the FAA radar precision wasn't good enough until about 10 years ago. Long answer, beginning with the Boeing 757 and Airbus 320 airliners in the late 80s and early 90s, all of the cockpit instrumentation switched from analog to digital electronic instruments. The autopilots in those aircraft are much more sophisticated than what was previously available. The really large, congested airports such as Los Angeles, Dallas, Miami, and Chicago needed a better way to land aircraft and increase the frequency of landings and takeoffs. The FAA came up with the continuous descent approach that was planned to work with the vertical navigation function of modern autopilots. Although pilot training today is as good as you would hope it could be, a human pilot cannot fly an airliner with the precision required to meet all the requirements of a vertical navigation approach. The adoption of GPS navigation by the airlines and improved radars by FAA now allow a totally automatic approach from 35,000 feet right down to the runway. When flying from Minneapolis to LA, the FAA controllers will start sequencing aircraft to land on a specific runway and at a specific time as far away as Denver. The pilot is obligated to comply or the aircraft will be denied access to the LA airspace. If everyone does their job, the system works wonderfully. But if some pilot for cheapo airlines misses the altitude and airspeed assigned over Riverside, for example, it will foul things up for everyone behind him and those waiting to take off. Most of the time, the pilot will disconnect the autopilot at 500 feet above the runway and make the landing by hand flying. But to maintain various qualifications, the autopilot has to do the landing at certain times and places. I'm not sure that the fuel savings are really significant, but every little bit helps, I suppose. Hope this wasn't too much information, Carl Bear in Northfield.
No, it's
So
great.
he's a commercial pilot.
He was retired now.
How does he and other pilots, commercial pilots, feel about that?
Well, let's keep reading here and see.
I want the guy at the stick to have full control.
Joe, the problem with aircraft landing at an airport is misdirected. It is not the airlines nor the aircraft manufacturer. The problem would rightfully be placed at the feet of the FAA if one is seeking a sacrificial lamb. I can sum it up with one word: sequencing. As aircraft intend to land at an airport, they need to be sequenced. The FAA does the sequencing at tower-controlled facilities. The pilots themselves do the sequencing at non-tower controlled facilities. So the very nature of the beast of arrivals at an airport will infer that an aircraft will need to descend, level off, etc. until landing.
Okay.
As I used to tell all of my student pilots, takeoffs are optional, landings are mandatory. always shoving back, good luck, Scott.
Well, that makes sense to me. I understand now.
I have two more, but they're brilliant, and I'm very curious about this topic.
Keep going.
Good afternoon, Joe. This is Jeff St. Germain. I am listening to the podcast, and you are discussing optimum profile descents and why they haven't been used for years. In fact, they have been used in Minneapolis since March of 2015. They are designed and implemented by the FAA, not the airlines, as getting two or more airlines to agree on work best is comparable to getting two kids to decide on which flavor of ice cream is the best. The idea is to save fuel and reduce carbon emissions from aircraft while descending at a rate that is ideal for the aircraft. Can OPDs be used all the time? No, but using this type of approach to landing a vast majority of the time does save on fuel and actually increase the number of aircraft that can land in 1 hour. There is much more that goes into the design, and these types of arrivals are being designed at all of the country to increase the efficiency of getting more planes on the ground. If you would like more information on the design of the MSP arrivals, let me know. I am not a pilot, but I am an air traffic controller for a couple of more months.
Cool.
That's the guy I want to talk to because I have a question. I want to know if my memory is correct. I don't remember when I observed this, and maybe it was playing on that golf course, Fort Snelling. I timed the time distance between when an airplane taking off, wheels left the ground, that's when I started the stopwatch, to when the approaching aircraft, wheels hit the ground, and I swear it was 30 seconds. And that was happening consistently. And I want to ask that controller, am I right? Was it 30 seconds or 1 minute?
Well, we were living in a rental place some years ago. It was on Snelling near Randolph. And that happened to be the approach path depending on the wind. So often I got great entertainment by sitting on the stoop and watching an airplane, and then beginning at the moment it flew over me, I would time how long it took for the next plane to fly directly over me. And if I'm recalling correctly, it was always about 1 minute and 27 seconds.
So you're the guy sitting on the tarmac waiting for the okay to go, and you know
there's a plane behind you.
less than a minute behind you. I mean, you're right to the stop. Let's go.
I did the same thing with a long layover at LaGuardia.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe what I was witnessing, because how many runways do they have? About
Hey, time is
75,000?
money, baby.
Yeah, I guess.
One more. I just listened to your January 17 podcast, specifically the discussion about the FAA proposal on optimum profile descents. I have been a commercial airline pilot for nearly 20 years, and prior to that, an Air Force pilot for 20 years, more than 20 years. This type of approach, which would definitely save fuel, and I am personally aware of its use at the Stansted Airport outside of London for at least the last 10 years. At the airport, it is called a continuous descent approach, and they are also referred to as a constant descent angle approaches or constant rate descents. They all accomplish the same goal of keeping the engines at or near idle and preventing intermediate level loss, requiring the engines to be spooled back up to cruise power. At the Stansted Airport, its purpose is not to save fuel, but to reduce the noise impact to those living under the arrival pass, and they go as far as using noise monitoring on the ground to ensure compliance. I personally do not know of any other airport that uses these types of approaches on a regular basis. I believe that the largest impediment to their large-scale use is the need to deconflict departing air traffic with the arrival traffic. At large, busy airports, the approach controllers need to get the arrival aircraft descended earlier than necessary, at least from a pilot's point of view, so that the departing aircraft have room to take off and climb out above them. This altitude deconfliction could be mitigated with the use of better planned arrival and departure corridors, which I would guess the FAA is working on with the rollout of these planned OPD approaches. This is just conjecture on my part, however, as I have not seen any of these planes. I have not seen any of the plans on how this is to be done. Thanks for inviting comment on this subject. I hope my response reflects a consensus with any other pilots choosing to chime in. I believe it did.
I understood everything he said. I'm just glad Matthew isn't here because there are about 24 bleep that words in there.
Yeah. How about deconflicting?
Deconflict.
Well, can we stay with the airlines? Because I'm fascinated by the industry.
Let's do it.
I attempted to reach Julio Ojeda Zapata. He is a Pioneer Press technology reporter, and quite literally, no one knows more about,
Technology
iPhones and stuff than Julio. And I was unsuccessful, but the airline industry is raising the stakes in a showdown with AT&T. And now I'm going to need the pilots to weigh in on this again. The airline industry is raising the stakes in a showdown with AT&T and Verizon over plans to launch new 5G wireless service this week, warning that thousands of flights could be grounded or delayed if the rollout takes place near major airports. CEOs of the nation's largest airlines say that interference from the wireless service on a key instrument on planes is worse than they originally thought. To be blunt, the nation's commerce will grind to a halt unless the service is blocked near major airports, the CEOs said in a letter Monday to federal officials, including Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who has previously taken the airline side in this matter. AT&T and Verizon plan to activate their new 5G wireless service Wednesday after 2 previous delays from the original plan for an early December rollout. The new high-speed 5G service uses a segment of the radio spectrum that is close to that used by altimeters, which are devices that measure the height of the aircraft above the ground. My instant cartoon bubble was the altimeter spinning around like a Three Stooges movie because some kid's got to watch a TikTok fast.
Right. I'm seeing it's a mad world, and Mickey Rooney and Buddy Hackett.
Well, there's another problem. Obviously, these guys rely on altimeters when they can't see anything.
Yeah.
So now you're coming in with zero visibility, and there's the threat that this new 5G radio band could cause their altimeters to go haywire. No.
But I got a tweet, Joe.
2 weeks ago,
There is some breaking news on this, Joe.
Good.
AT&T says it will delay, they've announced this in the last hour,
Good.
deployment of 5G service towers that are near any airports.
Get them out of there.
Yeah, they said they will still
What the
roll them
hell?
out, though, in other places that are not near airports. Verizon hasn't said a word. Apparently, both these folks met with the Biden administration officials this morning, and that's when AT&T said, all right, we'll delay it by airports.
You damn well better. AT&T and Verizon said their equipment will not interfere with aircraft electronics and that the technology is being safely used in many other countries. Critics of the airline industry say the carriers had several years to upgrade altimeters that might be subject to interference from 5G. No. Whatever altimeter's in the plane I'm in, that's a good enough altimeter.
And imagine being the rookie's friend at the airport person that has to deal with 25-year-old. How come my cell phone's not working at the airport?
So, are we?
Just a minute.
Okay. Yeah, we need to back up too.
Yeah, the CEOs of 10 passenger and cargo airlines, including American, Delta, United, and Southwest, said 5G will be more disruptive than they originally thought because dozens of large airports that were to have buffer zones to prevent 5G interference with aircraft will still be subject to flight restrictions announced last week by the FAA, and because those restrictions won't be limited to times when visibility is poor. I don't like any of this.
Nope.
No.
I want me to have a functioning altimeter. I don't want to start going backwards.
Step one.
Yeah.
The earlier technology we were talking about, and I guess this is a question for the pilots. So I'm given to understand that a pilot cannot click off the automatic pilot and guide it in on its own. And if he does, that screws up the whole system. He won't be granted a space on the runway.
I did not.
Is that true?
I did not capture that. I did not sense that.
And will this new technology breed pilots who don't know how to approach? And no, that could never be. That's
not gonna happen.
conspiracy thinking.
That's silly. That's
Well,
silly.
Joe, here at Budget Air, we have a new airplane that has no altimeters whatsoever to
you just
interfere
hold
with
one
your
of those
phone use.
propellers out the window.
Correct.
It spins around.
Hold on to
Yeah.
your butt.
Yep.
I just I want to know that the guy in the front can drive this, put this thing on the ground safely without.
I think the guys in the front are amazing.
Yeah, so do I, and I'm a little uncomfortable with technology replacing them.
Well, I got news for you, pal.
Yeah.
It's been happening for quite some
You've
time.
landed at Minneapolis, St. Paul many, many times, and those boys are using their instruments.
Well, it's not that they're not using their
No,
instruments.
they can't see. They're using their instruments.
But their hands are on the wheel,
Of course,
right?
of course.
That's what I want.
Well, you're getting that. You're getting that.
Okay.
There's always that sigh of relief when you can finally see the ground.
Who am I kidding? I'm not getting on a plane ever again. What do I care?